I want to say today that I have a word from the Lord for you. And I really do. I was impressed by just in my prayer and preparing for this entire season long to come to this place where we realize how simple this time with Jesus is. And if we just understand how simple things are, we can do this with Him. We've been trying to do it on our own instead of with Him. And there was a word that He had given me not long ago, and it really made things clear to me. So I want to share that with you. But this morning, He was talking to me about being simple. And He said, it is simple. Deliverance is simple. Now, He said, it's everything surrounding your freedom. All the reasons why it's hard in your mind. All the reasons why you're not enough to step into the freedom that He's provided. All the reasons this and that and other. All those things become complicated. But actually walking with Jesus into deliverance is just fear of the Lord. It's consecration. It's positioning Him as a shepherd. It's positioning Him in worship so that He's above you. He's the one leading you, not vice versa. He's the one in charge. You could just say it like this: Jesus is Lord. That is simple. And it erases the complicated part of trying to be holy, trying to be faithful. In fact, even the words holiness, faithfulness, all of that I just want to show you is, I got to be this. I have to have faithfulness. I have to have selflessness. The ness part is just the expression of it showing. Think about that. The holiness, holy is who you are if you belong to Him. You are set apart. The NESS is just how you allow Him to show more than yourself, how you allow His abilities to show more than your inabilities, how you allow His strengths to come out more than your weaknesses. And today, I want to show you how simple it is to lay down those weak places and allow the overcoming power of God to be what comes out of you and shows. And whether that's faith, He is faithful. So when we partner with His faithfulness, then that shows. The faithfulness is what shows. I hope that makes sense. And so what he was saying this morning was that, and it really helped me personally. And I was going to him personally. I mean, I'm going to let this overflow to you, but I wasn't really going to him for you. I was going to him for me. And he was like, the web, the complicatedness is like a spider's web. And you look at a spider's web, and that spider it's pretty miraculous what they can do in such a short time. But the enemy is like that spider that has woven a web of lies in your life, connected the dots between all these different happenings and things spoken to you and occurrences. And when things happen in your life, no matter how old you are, even all the way back to 2, 3 years old, Satan is whispering a lie that is not about that thing that happened, but he connects it to somehow there's something wrong with you. You're not enough. This happened because you're not enough. This happened because you're rejected. This happened because you're abandoned. Like those lies the enemy is speaking. But Jesus, when we follow Jesus, I'd like to say He untangles those things. But I'm starting to believe that in this day and age, He's just wiping them out. And when I was thinking about that spider web, which is complicated, a complicated design that a spider can make. And yet, what do you and I do as Lord over that spider web? We just go, and it's gone. All the complicated matter that spider took to make that web. And no matter how complicated your history is, it is a simple thing. to follow Jesus. And our lives are a picture of his goodness. And when we want to be a good witness to people, we want to be a good representation of the Lord, that's not about our goodness or our abilities. It's about how we yield to his Spirit. And so in talking about these things, in talking about the shaking, you see, I say it with a smile because the shaking is for my benefit. The shaking loose of everything the enemy has tried to tangle in my life, the shaking has freed me. The shaking of the Lord, the release and freedom from the Lord to be fully and completely his. That's so simple in following. So this word that he gave me just expressed that. So I want to share that with you. And he says, I was talking to him about time. And of course, sometimes we just feel this, like there's so much change going on around me, but time seems limited. And yet sometimes it just seems like I'm in a stalemate. Maybe you might feel stuck somewhere. And on this day, he was explaining that to me. And I said, Lord, time is yours, so time is mine. And time wasn't made for him. It was made for me. It was made for you. God is not subject to time. And so I said, Lord, I'm not going to worry about it's passing, and I won't have, and when I'm saying this, I'm declaring to myself, I won't have scarcity thoughts about time. You could say, I won't have scarcity thoughts about love or money or health or any of the things that in whatever moment we're sitting there thinking, we need this and there's not enough of it. So you have to reject that scarcity thought because in him is everything you need. So this is his response to that. He said, there's always more time for my followers. You will follow me into eternity, even through trouble and shaking. I am infinitely able to keep what is mine. And I said, well, I was about to say to him, well, I feel like I'm in this stalemate. And then as soon as I thought, no, that's not right. I'm not in a stalemate. And he said, you're not in a stalemate, you're in stillness. He said, I will make you lay down in green pastures and I will restore your soul. This is not stalemate, but a surgery of the heart. It's funny how when he just says such a simple word and everything shifts in your thinking. This is why we have to have a shepherd. This is why we have to have moments, not just moments. I believe he's leading us into a place where we're always conscious of what he's saying to us. And that takes, the word says that our senses are exercised by reason of use. So even if you are taking 15 minutes just to be quiet, or even if there's certain times of the day, you're like, when I'm driving, I'm not turning on the radio. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to give him my ear. Whatever those moments begin, wherever they begin, they will begin to increase. So he said, when you keep moving forward beyond the time to recover, you are only going through the motions of movement. What he was saying to me was, when something happens, maybe you're overwhelmed, or a tragedy or a trauma, or you're just depression, or life just gets to be too much, or things happen that you can't handle. He said, when you keep moving and you don't stop and sit with him in that surgery of the heart place, maybe you've been doing that for 30 and 40 and 50 years. Most of us have been just continuing on without letting him surgically dissect our heart for our whole life. So you can imagine that there is a lot of things growing and living in your heart, messages from the enemy, messages from trauma that have just stayed there. And again, remember, I want you to hear all this as it relates to what we've been talking about, the times that we're in and the shaking, where he is at war with all that stuff. He's not at war with us. Sometimes it feels like he's angry with us. He's not angry with us, but he is out to help us and cleanse us and get that stuff out of us that is making us susceptible to the enemy's plan. So he said, when you just keep moving, you aren't really progressing. You think you're moving forward. He said, for you can't sustain where your soul and body are not strong enough to live. These weaknesses that he's helping us to discover and remove and become strong, these places, we just try to move forward. But if we're not dealing with those and where we're trying to go, we will not be strong enough to live and sustain there. He said, you're not going to be able to thrive and continue on. You'll always be susceptible to be knocked back by the dis-ease or by the illness or the weakness that was never removed. You'll be susceptible to be knocked back to that place where the lie of the enemy is still speaking. And that made so much sense to me. And I think when people feel like I just keep trying to go forward and I just keep getting slammed back, I find myself in the same situations and you feel like you've been going around in a circle. But and however you want to describe it, we're getting taken back sometimes to the place where we did not deal with something with the Lord. He said, let me find the right place. I don't see your race as a series of short sprints that you win or lose. You know, we see it so like, oh, this season, man, I lost that season. I won this season, you know, like playing a game where I did great. And so I came through and I did good and I won. And in this season, something hit me and I lost. I've lost this time. I didn't do good. I did good. I didn't do good. That's not the way heaven sees our lives. But he says, I see an eternal race that you have already won. He said, this I love. This really spoke to me. He said, I do want you to advance. And I want you to move from glory to glory. But you will move from strength to strength. You know, the word says strength to strength, glory to glory, faith to faith, glory to glory, strength to strength. He said, you will move from strength to strength. We want to move and we want to advance, but he says, you're going to move from strength to strength and faith to faith to move it all. This is my Father's formula. So my formula, this is his formula. He said, you can't change this. You may want to just move on, but you're not going to move on until you gain strength in the area that has been holding you back. He said, the beauty in this formula for advancing in strength is that you will keep revisiting. I'm thinking, this is bad that I keep revisiting this same place. This is bad that I keep revisiting this same weakness. He said, no, this is beauty. This is beauty that you can't get away from this weakness. And once you understand what's happening, you can begin to meet him in that weakness and let him bring it into a strength. So he said, this is actually a formula that works, and it's God's formula. You don't go forward just because you want to go forward. And maybe you're like, well, it's worked for me. That's the kind of situation where you feel like, man, things have been good for so long and I'm moving forward, and suddenly you are popped back, way back there where you're now in depression because of that thing that happened in the past. And maybe we got by with these things in the last season, but in this cleansing season, those things from the past, Satan is using those. And you say, but I got forgiveness for that. I put that under the blood of Jesus and I'm forgiven for that, or I forgave so-and-so for that. But if it's taking up space in your mind, will, and emotion, let me put it this way. If you didn't deal with Jesus with it, then it is taking up space in your mind, will, and emotions, and you're going to keep popping back there. You're going to keep going back there and back there and back there until you sit with Jesus in it. He says you will keep revisiting this and get knocked back by and eventually have to deal with your weakness. He said, it's my promise and my purpose and my character trait that my joy to be the inherent strength in your weakness. No, we don't have to be afraid of our weaknesses. He says, it is my purpose to be the inherent strength inside that weakness. When you sit with him, he's going to turn that weakness into a strength. He says to become one with you in that place and to create a strength in you that you never had prior. That's his job, and he's here for that. He said the faith that comes in the journey, this is the journey of the shepherd and the sheep. This must be centered around the voice of the shepherd. Your journey with him, that word journey has taken on this whole meaning for me, and I actually look it up. I'll read it to you in a minute. But he says, this journey has to be centered around the voice of the shepherd, speaking the words of the Father. That's his job. The perfect messenger of the Father, the Bible says. This is where your faith is developed and developed again and again as you hear and hear his voice on the journey, telling you what's really happening, telling you who you really are in the midst of the enemy, in the midst of your weakness. How many times is it that your weakness that gets to define who you are? Well, it ought not be so. We are defined by our partnership with Jesus. That partnership with Jesus is the NESS, the righteousness, the holiness, faithfulness. That partnership that we latch on to who he is in our life, in the weak places. I think if I look at how I used to unconsciously think about things, was that he's given me his word. He's told me in the scriptures who he is, what belongs to me, what my covenant is. So when I go to him, I need to take all that and tell him who I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the absence of allowing him, in the absence of coming to him as you are, weak, broken, traumatized, depressed, whatever it is, sick, that place of coming to him like that, you need the Rhema word inside of you to explode of him telling you who you are. We can't be always going to him all strong without letting him come into us with his strength and repair the weakness. It's just so important that you have a relationship with him. It's like when you cry, cry. When you can't do anything but cry to him. Cry with purpose. Cry out to him and express to him your weakness. Because where we are weak is a portal to be strong again. Or to be strong, not again, but to be strong like we've never been. Because in the weakness, paired to his strength, we become stronger in a way of partnership. Not strong by ourselves, not strong because we decided to be strong, but truly, truly the weakness removed, the web of lies wiped away, and a new strength to move forward with. Let me tell you what the word journey is, because this is what, again, I want us to be the people who are known that we walked with God. This is an opportunity and an invitation, as surely as Jesus showed up on the road to Emmaus after they had lost him. They had lost everything. They had lost their religion. They had lost their religion in reality. And he showed up and he erased religion with the reality of through through the whole scriptures, he told them who he was. He shared the true story of the gospel with them. And when they got to where they were going, they were lifted, they were bright, they were joyous, and they were determined that he would go with them. That's a journey, and that's what he's inviting us to. Listen to what journey means. A traveling from one place to another, usually taking a rather long time, a passage to pass through, pass over, or progress from one stage to another. Traveling is to go from one place to another, to move, or go from one point to another, to proceed or advance in any way. This part was actually in the dictionary. To associate or consort. And I wrote, I travel with Jesus. I associate and I consort and I walk with Jesus. And then that reminded me again, Enoch walked with God, or you could say Enoch traveled with God. To pass or be transmitted as light or sound. Again, that ness coming out of us. And that made me, this next part made me think of Galatians 5:16, that the works of the flesh are evident in, and it went to list the things that are evident. That's the ness, fleshness. But the works of the Spirit, is said, the fruit of it, it's really compared, it's a comparative paragraph. The works of the flesh are evident, and it lists them. The fruit of the Spirit, what's that saying? It's also saying the outcoming, the evidence of the Spirit, and it calls it fruit. And you know, I love fruit. If the tree is healthy, fruit is coming. Fruit's coming out without trying. The works of the flesh come out without trying. That's just what's going to come out. But when you are united at the core with Jesus, then the fruit, what's going to come out of you, are love, joy, peace, all the fruit of the Spirit, the NESS. So this is what he said. When you walk with me, you walk or travel in the Spirit. And if you travel in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the lusts or desires of the flesh. Now listen to what fulfill means. To carry out, bring to realization as a prophecy or promise, to perform a duty, to fulfill, to obey or follow as commands, to bring to an end, finish and complete as a period of time, to fulfill. This really got me. To fulfill the lusts of the flesh, to develop the full potential of the flesh. You're not out there trying to develop the full potential of your flesh. You are not out there to fulfill the lusts of your flesh. And the Lord had to flip my mind about that, about what walking in the flesh is. When you are weak or you're messing up, that is not fulfilling the flesh. Fulfilling the flesh is when you give yourself over to your flesh to just be fulfilled in your life, and that's what's going to come out. And when you walk in the Spirit and you walk in love and you walk with God, you are there to fulfill all of His life out of your life. You are there to fulfill what He wants to come out of your life, who He is, all those strengths. When you're walking with Him, you will fulfill who He is in your life. And we can't get it, we can't have that life any other way. We can't walk with Him day to day to day to day in conversation, allowing Him, partnering with Him in our weaknesses to bring about His strength, His fruit coming out of our lives. It says, this doesn't mean, he says, how could you fulfill the flesh if you are shepherded by me? Doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Doesn't mean you won't go astray. Or you would not need my rod, my staff, my healing. This is what he's here for, is to walk with you. And you know, the scripture that I want to combine with this is 2 Corinthians 3. It says, whenever anybody turns to the Lord, there is freedom. There's freedom for you today. And I want to challenge you with chapter 4. And chapter 4 is not a challenge for you to be better. It's a challenge to allow what's in you to make you better. This chapter 4 talks about the light that is shining on the inside of us. We are jars of clay. And I never really understood this chapter until he began to refine what my weakness is there for, or how he can change me. The jars of clay, let me just read this to you. He said, let there be light in the darkness. This light shining in our hearts so we could know the glory of God that is seen in the face of Jesus. When we look at Jesus, the scripture before, the chapter before says we turn into the very image of him when we behold him. That didn't say you need to work to turn into Jesus. You need to work to be like him. It said just look at him. And then what's in him will begin to come out of you. I love this part. It says we have this light shining in our hearts, and we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing the real treasure. That's why we can be pressed by troubles from the outside, but it's the inside light that keeps us. It says we're pressed by trouble on every side, but we're not crushed. Why aren't we crushed? Go read the rest of that in this context. Why aren't we crushed? Because of what's inside of us. Because the pressure comes from the outside, but what the inside is bringing is powerful. And it's not temporary, but it's forever. What he's developing in us in this walk. We can be perplexed and not know what's going on, but we're not abandoned. He's not left us. I challenge you today to get in touch with the shepherd inside and give him everything as you make him really and truly the Lord of your life.